Welcome back to Metropole Television. This is Business AM. We are on your biggest economic headlines that you are waking up to today. Now, let's begin with the embattled health CS, Kagwe, who has defended himself in his role in KEMSA procurement deals. And I quote, "I am being attacked for doing my job." That is Kagwe. All right, so let's continue where the CS on the unfolding saga, all right, on the alleged procurement irregularities at the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority involving billions of shillings worth of items touching on the war on COVID-19 in Kenya. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe has come out to defend himself in the wake of revelations of his involvement in influencing procurement deals surrounding personal protective equipment by KEMSA. CS Kagwe has admitted that he did so in good faith as part of his duties as the CS Health. All right, let's listen in on that defense, and then after that we come and talk about it shortly.
As a young person, I don't know how you live with yourself.
Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe is a man under fire. This is after he was implicated alongside Health Principal Secretary Susan Mochache, an unnamed member of the COVID-19 Emergency Response Committee, in irregular procurement deals to the tune of 7.6 billion shillings at the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency, KEMSA. On Friday, suspended KEMSA Chief Executive Officer Dr. John Mjeri told the senators that the Ad hoc Committee on COVID-19 that he received numerous calls, short text messages and emails from the trio to award tenders for the provision of various items.
Was there any individuals who were forcing you to make some of these decisions outside the board sanctions?
I would say yes, there were there were requests from the PS.
Which PS, and be specific, which PS?
Susan Mochache.
Yes.
There were requests from the Cabinet Secretary.
Which CS? It's good you give us names for the record.
We've said Honorable Mutahi Kagwe.
Yes.
But now the embattled health CS has admitted that he did so in the best interest of the taxpayer in his role as the member of the executive.
It is the CS for health must and should and must continue to engage the executives in my parastatals. There is no way of gainsaying whether we are engaging KEMSA people, whether we are engaging KEMRI people, whether we are engaging the other ones. For example, as a measure of what we took, as of some of the preparedness measures that we took, we are the ones who told KEMSA they cannot continue importing PPEs. We developed individual national capacity for manufacturing of these things, and consequently informed, directed KEMSA that they must now buy locally instead of buying from overseas. That measure alone brought down the cost of PPEs from 9,000 shillings to 4,300 shillings and still going down.
Kagwe is now reading politics in the unfolding probe on how public and donor funds have been spent in the fight against COVID-19.
Every day it is politicized, and we must also not be naive to the issue of the politicization and weaponization of the COVID issue. And that is a fact. We live in a country that is fairly political, and it is obvious that there is weaponization of the politics of it all.
Kagwe spoke during a virtual meeting organized by the Council of Governors to assess the state of counties in the wake of COVID-19. During the meeting, President Uhuru Kenyatta warned Kenyans against relaxing their guard in the wake of the declining number of confirmed COVID-19 cases.
To the contrary, I believe we have done remarkably well, and that is why we have begun to flatten the curve. But to do better, we must remain brutally honest with our approaches, because intellectual honesty is critical to building resilience going forward. However, we must not celebrate this happy moment too soon, but rather celebrate it with a great deal of caution. More so because the curve begins to flatten after it reaches its highest point. Point is also called the infection point.
President Kenyatta further called on governors to pursue a strategic response to the pandemic, urging them to reflect on how to prepare the country for a complete reopening. The conference comes a week after President Kenyatta extended the 9 p.m. and 4 a.m. curfew and the ban on the sale of alcohol by another 30 days. Victoria Amunga for Metropole TV, Nairobi.
Well, the line, gentlemen, I'm going to introduce you shortly, is we must not be naive to the politicization and weaponization of the COVID-19 issue. And this morning, to help us understand this saga at the Ministry of Health, we are joined by Washington Daga, Chairman, Bima Intermediaries Association of Kenya. We're also joined by Collins Oluoch, is a lawyer, and CPA Enoch Monari, Managing Partner, Nyanchoga and Associates. Now, I want to pick it up with you, Collins, as we introduce this issue this morning. How do we understand the controversy at the Ministry of Health?
The Ministry of Health, before even Mutahi Kagwe stepped in, was really a center which was called Mafia Center, where previously, I don't know how, we've gobbled a lot of money there with regards to corruption. Formerly, when Cecily Kariuki was the CS there, and even equally when Mailu was the CS there, a lot of things that were not clear with regards to accountability. And so the coming of Mutahi Kagwe, we thought is going to be to speak light towards these issues, and we're going to once and for all stop the issue of accountability and corruption. But I don't know where we lost the fight with regards to COVID and with regards to management of COVID. There have been a lot of uncertainty with regards to how the money that has been allocated for COVID has been spent. But that said, I don't want to rule out issues with regards to politicization of this issue. I'm waiting for the report that the president tasked that after 30 days, 21 days, sorry, that it should be out. But really, the buck stops with the CS. And it's about time we see how you show us which companies won procurement deals and at what amount. Why would a company, for instance, supply 1,000 masks at 45 million, and then another company supplies 450 masks at 8 million? It doesn't make sense, really. And so we expect to see those lists of companies that tendered and companies that supplied services for KEMSA. And to compare that with regards to other prices, I mean, there must be which hand. But that said, I employ go home as soon as now, because at the end of it all is going to go home.
And look, I just want to bring you in. While Colin says, it's got to go home. Now, I just want you to listen to the statement from one Dr. John Mjeri, who's currently suspended. He says he did receive a lot of messages, a lot of phone calls and requests, either directly from the PS or the CS, to award the COVID-19 tenders specifically to the companies that they wanted these tenders to go to. Is that where the conversation point is?
I think away from the fact that we've magically managed to flatten the curve, we really have to look at the situation that we were in 6 months ago. When we publicly got to know that there was corona in the country, there was a lot of panic in the country. And we don't want to walk away from the fact that before that, nobody knew whether, some of us didn't know whether masks exist. There were things that were being used in hospitals. So for the kind of procurement that the government has done, away from the politics that is being played, it actually is understandable that the country was under lockdown, goods were not coming out, goods were not coming into the country. There was a lot of demand for masks in the world. You remember at one point, Germany was crying that they had lost some masks, which actually had ended up in the country. So that shows how dire the situation was when it comes to acquiring PPE, medical PPEs that were needed in the fight against this pandemic. So we don't really want to start now putting a lot of focus on what might have happened, at what price. In fact, I want to tell you, Simba, the first box of masks that I bought it at 4,800 shillings. My box that I bought 3 days ago was for 500 shillings. And it's the same type of mask. It's no different. So it tells you that at that point, there was a lot of panic. And the demand was very high and supply was not coming through. That is why probably the government got themselves in the situation they are. But for me, I also want to pass the blame on the CS on how they have handled the pandemic. In fact, the reason why we are seeing a lot of cries on how these things were purchased is because of a feeling within Kenyans that we've been, the CS and the team of the minister has been lying to us all along on the mitigating aspect of the virus. And people feel like when you look at our neighboring country, Tanzania, people have, I mean, they're going to football stadiums, there's campaigns going on. It's like there's no corona there. And at the same time, when you look at our country, we are under lockdown, and now they have tied this situation to the fact that there was money from the World Bank that people wanted to take advantage and steal. But with all honesty, the ministry did what they could be able to do at that time.
All right, let me just bring in Washington again this morning so we can actually now sort of cap this conversation. Washington, yes, the evidence is there. They're already talking about it. Well, there have been calls, and you can hear Collins say, well, they should go home sooner rather than later. Are these calls for Mutahi Kagwe to go home warranted, going by what we've seen so far from the ministry?
Thank you, Simba. Colleagues, Enoch and Collins. Now, there's one thing you need to understand. As long as there's money to be made in this country, there's going to be corona. As we speak right now, the CS, I mean, we all know when money comes from abroad, if money like, I'm going to get it. Any money that is being donated into this country is misused or money disappears. We all saw this expose by the Standard that talked about the only money that this country can account for is 13.3 billion. They cannot account for 142.4 billion or the money that has been donated to this country as far as COVID-19 is concerned. We all know the people who have been implicated in these COVID-19 issues. These are politicians and sons and daughters of politicians. You know, I mean, it's in the public domain. And let me tell you, as far back as in May, as far back 3 months down the line after the COVID, after the lockdown in March, there were already issues of money being spent badly. There was already issues of tea costing 2 million, 4 million, you know. Then you understand. I mean, then you wonder. I mean, this government is, I don't know, they are not sensitive to anything. People have been locked down. There's no activity going on. These guys are talking about spending 4 million on tea. You know, this country is a joke, Simba. These guys should go home. Mutahi Kagwe should go home. You see, when someone like the CS, when he was being grilled and said that Mutahi Kagwe is on top of this game, he's on top of it. He knows exactly what is going on. There's nothing like politicization. Let me tell you something. You see, in this county called Mjeri, when COVID-19, when they talked about COVID-19, I know people personally, I know 5 people who they said they have COVID-19. None of them had. None. But you see, the figures have to be reported that they have. Let us say there's a lot of money to be made in this. The report has reported that they have, so that at least the county government. And let me tell you, the most amazing thing is this: that Mjeri was told they have COVID-19 people after Mutahi Kagwe came to Mjeri. I think he talked about the county government. Wakasema, unajua hii kitu bana iko na pesa. You have to say you have people here who have corona. But I can tell you, those guys didn't have anything. They didn't have. And I know them. That's what I'm saying. I mean, get to the ground. You see the kind of nonsense going on, you know?
All right, Collins, with just 30 seconds each, therefore, gentlemen, because we're trying to fit ourselves within this conversation. Collins, yes, you're saying it should go, but when should it go if it has to go?
Now, I mean, this is the time for him to go. This is the time for him to step out. I don't know why he wants to engage us on blame games, on pointing fingers. Or it's the PS who is in charge of accounting, or it's the board who is in charge of approval. I mean, the buck stops with him as a leader, and it's time for him to know that Kenyans are already fed up. And you can hear the sentiments from my colleagues. Kenyans are already fed up. We have already seen the dirt in their game, and so it's about time we tell them that we no longer are interested in consuming whatever thing they are selling to us. I don't even remember the last time I watched any of those briefings, because to me now they don't make sense anymore.
Pretty much. Now, Enoch, cap this conversation for us. Now, the president has since called for the procurement process at the Ministry of Health to go online. Why wasn't it online? And wasn't that framework already existing when it comes to public procurement processes?
The president has done this before. This is not the first time that he's telling ministries and parastatals to publish all procurement details in their portal. So I don't know why the ministries, of course, opt to not adhere to what the president is saying. But what I want to say, Simba, is we're having a top-down approach in terms of investigations. We have investigative agencies in this country that are supposed to investigate, but we actually started from the newspapers. We've ended in parliament. Now we want to go to the DCI and the ESCC. In fact, we should have started with the investigative agencies, get the report out, then we can have that report being discussed in parliament, and then once it goes public, we can be able to debate it. But as it is, the CS is guilty, the PS is guilty, until proven innocent. That is how it is currently.
All right. Guilty until proven innocent. That is what Enoch is saying this morning. Meanwhile, insurance company UAP Holdings fell into half-year loss of 305 million shillings for the 6 months ended June 30th, 2020. Now, the loss denotes a 179.6% decline in profitability from the previous year's half-year net profit of 383 million shillings. Now, during that period, UAP's gross written premiums grew by 11% to 11 billion shillings recorded in the same period last year, driven by short-term insurance businesses. Now, despite the turbulence occasioned by the COVID-19, the insurance company's net claims payable reduced by 11% to 4.8 billion shillings, driven partly by management actions in respect to pricing, underwriting, and claims management. UAP's investment income decreased by 34% to 1.3 billion shillings. Now, the firm's total expenses and commissions rose by 23% to 4 billion shillings. Now, in light of the company's half-year performance, UAP Holdings Board of Directors have not recommended the payment of an interim dividend. Question being therefore, and I want to start with you, Washington, together this morning. How much has the insurance sector been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic from in-house sector outlook?
This COVID-19 thing has really affected this economy, and you can be sure the first people actually to be affected is the insurance sector, because we have seen situations whereby people now cannot actually be able to afford, for example, comprehensive insurance. People are downgrading to third-party insurance. People are falling back on paying for their monthly payments as far as insurance is concerned, because people have kind of relegated insurance to the back burner. They feel insurance is not one of the important issues that need to be done right now, you know. But at the same time, we need to understand that the insurance industry has actually been hit by a lot of scandals. And insurance industry is one of the really, really murky industries in this country that need to have a serious commission of insurance. Someone who really understands what the sector is all about. Because I can tell you, as a player and as a leading player in this country, we don't have a serious commission of insurance who knows exactly how the industry is moving. We have issues, for example, like when the COVID-19 came about, there was these issues of how is the insurance industry going to mitigate the suffering of the players in the industry. Me, as a chairman of insurance agents in Kenya, there was the issue of much as we are independent contractors for insurance companies, there was the issue of how these insurance going to come in and mitigate our suffering, looking at the fact that these companies are left, right, and
all right, Washington, we seem to have lost you at that point. Let me just bring in Washington. Are you back? Can you get me?
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
All right, quickly clear your point then.
Yeah, I'm saying the insurance industry, the COVID-19 issues in the insurance sector, there's a lot that needs to be done. I want to restrict my answer to what you've asked me. I don't want to because there's so much I can tell you about insurance right now.
Pretty much.
And yeah. Let's go on, Simba.
Fantastic, Washington. Let me bring in Enoch on this as well. Now, Enoch, I mean, yes, we've just started, therefore, receiving the half-year results for the insurance companies in the country. UAP was among the first ones to give us those results, and you can see that. I mean, if you look at the banking sector, the banking industry, sorry, they're talking about declined profitability. But the first one that gave us the results in the insurance sector, it is a loss, not even declined profit margins. Is that the trend that we're going to see when it comes to insurance companies' half-year results?
Simba, insurance companies and the banking sector normally benefit a lot from calamities. And for a long time, and we've had this discussion before, banks will always run around crying how there is reduced profitability. But when you look at their financial statements at the end of the year, they're very profitable. It's the same case for insurance companies. They will say how numbers have gone down. They will say how business is performing badly. But when you look at the numbers for the insurance companies that have been performing well all along, they will still be able to be profitable. And the same case for UAP Insurance, because what we're talking about here is UAP Holdings, not really UAP Insurance, which is a subsidiary of UAP Holdings. The insurance section of UAP Holdings still performs well. The only area that they're having a challenge is the area of investments. And when you look at property and investment in equity, that is what actually has suffered most. And I'm very sure for most of the investors who have invested in equity and those who have invested in property have really suffered for the last 6 or so months. But for the insurance sector, they will always benefit from such calamities, because I know at that point, people become more worried, and they'll start insurance companies will start coming up with new products to be able to respond to the needs, and they'll be able to make money out of it. It has always been our cry that the banking sector and the insurance sector can actually be able to respond to the needs of the people without having to take advantage and be as profitable as they are, instead of giving products that can be able to cushion people, especially such a time that we have these challenges.
All right. Now, Collins, as I wait to pop you in on the next issue that we're going to look at this morning. Now, Washington, clear this for us in 45 seconds, if you may. I mean, what are the biggest indicators that we're going to look at as we wait for half-year results from the insurance sector for us to see the final effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the sector?
What I know is this. Their insurance, let me tell you, their companies have done very, very well in insurance right now. Look at Jubilee, what Jubilee posted the other day. Jubilee is actually giving dividends as we speak. It gave dividends. Their companies, for example, like Sanlam came out from serious losses, billions in losses, to make some few hundreds of millions in losses. No, I think it was not even 100 million, something like 57 million in losses. They've improved a lot. Let me say, also business has come up. But the biggest has been brought about by COVID-19 is the suppression of the economy. The first people to hit is actually the insurance sector. Just as I was explaining the other day. I mean, right now, that people don't view insurance as a priority, so to speak. But I can also, and there's a point I was making here, that if you don't have a strong regulator in the insurance sector to make sure that there's a robust insurance sector in this country, even the economy is badly hit. Because remember, when things go south, people run to insurance for compensation. If you don't have a good insurance, if you don't have strong insurance companies operating into the sector, you don't have good regulation, because right now we have issues left, right, and center. Serious issues. If you don't have a good regulator doing this properly in this country, we are going to continue suffering as far as the economy is concerned. But Enoch is very, very right. Things like banks make money. Banks and insurance are not they're worlds apart. I can tell you that. Banks are worlds apart. You always go back. Banks will always make money. I mean, you get, if someone is paying you some, even a stipend, they might pay you by a check. It's still going to go to the bank. The bank is going to still charge you. But insurance is not a must. It's not a must to have insurance. It's not a must that you pay for your covers. If your cover lapses, no one is going to take you to jail, so to speak, right?
Pretty much, Washington.
We need let me say, we need a strong insurance sector to be able to cushion the economy.
Pretty much. All right, gentlemen, let's quickly move into the next issue. Now, remittances from Kenyans living abroad rose by 23.1% year on year to 29.9 billion shillings in July compared to July 2019. Now, according to data provided by the Central Bank of Kenya, the cumulative inflows in the 12 months July rose by 3%, 309 billion shillings compared to 23 billion shillings in the 12 months to July 2019. Remittances in the 7 months to July 2020 were 3.9% higher in the same period in 2019. Inflows from the United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Germany increased, while those from the US and South Africa decreased slightly compared to the same period last year. Now, Collins, I want to bring you in on this. Yes, we expected these remittances to be hit as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, but we haven't seen that. So the question is, why do we have this general trend in diaspora remittances despite the world's economy reeling from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic?
We'll have to appreciate that in countries like the US that have been most hit by the pandemic, the remittances have gone down, as opposed to other countries like the UK as opposed to countries like the UK. It was expected that really the remittances would go down. I don't know how we've been able to turn this, that businesses have still remained to be afloat in as much as they've been controlled human interaction. I think it's because of to wade into the online market that has made some of the companies and the industries to still remain afloat. But I think this turnaround in remittances has happened right from June. If you look at from March all the way to June, the remittances are low. But from June, I think that is where we saw a turnaround in that.
Pretty much. All right, Enoch, we just want to bring you on this now. Now, does this further cement the optimism that the economy will rebound further than the 1.9% predicted by most analysts this year? We do know the Central Bank of Kenya said, we have to relook at the way in which we are performing right now. Remittances among those that are sort of spreading optimism about our turnaround for the economy this year.
My thinking and the approach I'll have on this issue is currently we're having challenges of the Kenyans who are living in countries like the US, Saudi Arabia, are actually having challenges with violence in those countries, and they're not being treated very well. And for me, I think the reason why we're seeing an increase in foreign remittances in a period where we'll be expecting a very big reduction is the realization by the Kenyans in those countries that they need to invest back at home. That at the end of the day, it's not so rosy there in the US, neither is it rosy in Saudi Arabia or Qatar or Germany. And the little money that they're getting, they need to bring it back home, invest here, because at the end of the day, having gone through what they've gone through for the months, especially this year.
All right, I don't know. Yes, can you get me, Enoch?
Yeah, I can.
Fantastic. So will you clear your point then?
I just want to send this message to Kenyans who are living abroad. The best place to invest is back in your country, and that is Kenya. Just try and ensure that the reason why you went to the US or to whichever country is to be able to generate enough money and invest back home, so that at the end of the day you can be able to come back home and of course build the nation.
Pretty much. All right, gentlemen, if you may allow me now, Washington, you'll be the first one to take on the next issue where Kenya's inflation rate has remained unchanged. Now, Kenya's August inflation rate at 4.6% and CPI increased by 0.2% in August. Now, Kenya's inflation rate remains unchanged at 4.3% year on year in August from July. Now, this is according to the latest release from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, where the consumer price index increased by 0.2% to 108.57 in August from 108.35 in July. Now, the food and non-alcoholic drinks index, on the other hand, as we do know of it, decreased by 1.01%, while the year-on-year food inflation increased by 5.43% in August 2020. Now, this is attributed to decreases in the prices of several food items outweighing the increases. Now, the prices of onions regions, tomatoes and spinach, they registered increases of 16.38% to 12.05 and 7.51% respectively in August 2020 compared to July 2020. However, during the same period, now prices of beans, mangoes and peas increased by 2.17, 5.16 and 7.42% respectively. Now, if you just leave it there, I know Washington, someone is going to ask you, we're talking about an unchanged inflation, and if you look at what we're talking about, it's a 4.36%, which is pretty much within the confines of what we'll call a healthy inflation rate. But you would expect that the COVID-19 pandemic would have really pushed things to the worst, especially now when we're talking about 1.7 million jobs getting lost and companies declaring redundancies and salary cuts in the economy. Why are we talking about a healthy inflation rate, and most specifically an unchanged one at 4.36%?
It's one thing that we are going to assume right now. We are going to assume that actually the government is giving us the right figures. Because you see, what I know about Kenya National Bureau of Standards is that it cooks figures, and I've proved that one or two times in the past. You know, the government likes painting rosy pictures as we go to hell. Now, the point is this. You see, as far as the COVID-19 pandemic is concerned, there's a suppressed level of economic activities in the country. When you talk about, let me tell you, like, it's very, very true. For example, here, when you talk about the price of tomatoes and spinach registered decreases, because there's been an overproduction, especially as far as I know from farmers, onions and tomatoes, there's been an overproduction of this agricultural produce. That overproduction has an effect of pushing down the prices, not getting the prices up. And generally, when there's suppressed economic activity, you're not supposed to be having inflation. You're supposed to be having what you call deflation, or the depression of the economy. The economy is supposed to be going down. There's supposed to be much more money circulating in the economy more than the goods that are circulating in the economy. Why? Because the manufacturing sectors, the production of goods in the economy has ceased. Remember, imports have ceased. There's very, very, especially the first period between March and May, there was very, very few imports that were coming in because everything had been brought down, so to speak. Now, when you have few goods in the economy and too much money chasing the few goods, you don't get an inflation, you get a depression. That's what I'm saying. First of all, we got to agree. Or rather, you got to believe that whatever the government is giving us, Kenya National Bureau of Standards is giving us, is the correct figures. Because look at it this way: we've been given money by the international bodies, the World Bank, by WHO, for the purpose of cushioning this economy against the COVID-19 effects. This money is nowhere to be seen right now. It's some people's bank accounts abroad. The money has to be into this country for us to be able to actually talk about a normal economic activity going on, yes. Normal economic trades going on. You know, you talk about normal, about inflation, whatever's being normal, I doubt these figures.
Pretty much. All right, Enoch, I want to bring you in on this issue as well. Yeah, the numbers look good, and it's the positive key figure there is, well, they remained unchanged from July to August. Why do we sort of tend to feel this heat where the government is painting a healthy picture, but if you talk to the normal Mwananchi, Enoch, they are crying. They don't see where that money is. And right now they will tell you, my purchasing power, it is diminished.
Actually, Simba, if you look at what has happened in the country since March, we've had a reduced demand of products because, of course, what has happened, you've seen so many people losing their jobs and companies closing down. And that, of course, has affected the economy when it comes to demand of food, non-alcoholic drinks, and even other items. So in that aspect, considering, of course, the purchasing power has also gone down because people have lost their jobs, you don't expect to see inflation going up. Because if people don't have money to buy these commodities, the sellers or those who have the products will be able to be forced to try and adjust their prices downwards. And the other thing that we also have to look at is that this period has brought about innovative ways of supplying goods to the economy. We've had alternative supplies. We've had alternative channels of goods. That's why you've seen when you look at things like mangoes, oranges, onions, the prices have slightly gone down because there has been a need and, of course, a realization for the last 6 months that we can be able to do these things on our own. And we are seeing increase in the productivity within the economy. I mean, look at teachers. Teachers, all teachers are at home. And I know most of them are in their farms by producing, because you don't have any other option than to go to the farm and produce. So that might be the effect. And it's a good thing now, because we're not seeing a high increase in commodity prices, because we really don't want to have a situation whereby people are locked up at home, companies have closed, the purchasing power is very low, but the price of commodities is going high. That actually will be able to cause a crisis in the country.
Pretty much. All right, Collins, take 30 seconds, if you may, to also cast your thoughts on this. It looks unchanged at 4.3%. Positive. Enoch is saying, wow, we got to look at the bigger picture. There's a lot that has changed in the economy in terms of the way that people do businesses. What's your viewpoint on this?
Beyond looking at the bigger picture, I equally want to question these numbers, because yesterday it was reported that 1.7 million Kenyans have lost their jobs from the period of March till now. We equally a lot of companies that have shut down, others have laid off their staff. But I want to talk of suppression due to influx of products and availability of customers. You know, when COVID started, we had a lot of panic shopping, and we were suspecting that people are going to hoard their products and services and all that. But then they realized that at the end of the day that they don't have consumers for that, and so they've been forced, I think, to review the prices of their commodities downward, and that through that we've been able to like strike a balance with regards to inflation. But that said, I don't that have been read out. That's why I'm still questioning the numbers.
Pretty much. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Collins, Enoch and Washington, it has been quite a pleasure speaking to you this morning on the top economic headlines that are making stage, or that are making a conversation as we wake up this morning. All right, we take a short break here on Business, and once we come back though, let's speak to the NSE CEO, Jeff Dindo, on what he thinks the market outlook therefore looks as most corporates and companies therefore try to understand how to reposition themselves and their businesses within the COVID-19 pandemic, shortly here on Business AM.